Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world, one book at a time. So today we're diving into a system that most of us feel like we know pretty well, liberal democracy. But what if its core design, from the very beginning, was built on a massive hidden contradiction? A collection of essays in The Condition of Democracy argues that this hidden logic is actually the key to understanding many of the global crises we see today. So let's explore that. All right, let's start on common ground. We all know the pitch, right? The official story, the big promise of liberal democracy. I mean, it's built on these incredible, really powerful ideals: freedom, equality, the idea that everyone gets a say, and tolerance. The book we're looking at calls this the dominant discourse, which is really just the main story we're all told. And you know what? It's a compelling, hopeful vision of how a society could work. But, and this is a really big but, here's where the book challenges us to look a whole lot deeper. It argues that this beautiful promise, right from its inception, was actually never meant for everyone. And here is the absolutely crucial point the book makes. These two things weren't happening at different times. While Western nations were developing these amazing democratic ideals for their own citizens, they were, at the exact same time, colonizing lands and subjugating people all over the world. The ideals and the oppression, they weren't sequential, they coexisted. The book suggests this isn't just a simple case of hypocrisy. No, it argues this is a feature, not a bug. It's the result of a political system that was deliberately designed to have two very, very different faces. To really wrap our heads around this, let's use a metaphor. Picture a giant machine. On the front, the side everyone sees is this polished, shiny facade that says democracy in big letters. But what's powering the whole thing is hidden around back, a brutal, raw engine of control and extraction. And that's the part that was running in the colonies. They aren't two machines, they're two parts of the same machine. Now, the book gives us a name. It's called a bifurcated polity. It sounds a little academic, but bifurcated just means split in two. So it's a system designed from the ground up, with one set of rules for one group of people and a completely different and often brutal set of rules for another. So here's how that played out in the real world. On one side of the line, in the mother country, you had citizens. They got the good stuff: rights, elections, democratic norms. But on the other side, out in the colonies, you had subjects. For them, the system was the exact opposite: exclusion, coercion, and complete domination. And the core insight here is that the privileged life of the citizen actually depended on the exploitation of the subject. One couldn't exist without the other. But here's the thing about systems. They have feedback loops. Those two sides of the machine, well, they couldn't stay separate forever. The book argues that the logic that was used to govern colonial subjects is now coming home. It's reappearing right in the heart of Western democracies themselves. The source uses that really powerful phrase, chickens coming home to roost. And you can see it playing out. The tactics of control, that harsh us versus them logic, the legal exceptions that were once reserved for the colonies, they're now visible in our own domestic politics. Just look at the debates over migration, surveillance, and citizenship. That hidden part of the machine is starting to break through the facade. So what does this new perspective, seeing the entire machine, front and back, really show us? Well, it fundamentally changes how we interpret the world around us. It completely reframes the whole conversation. We always talk about a crisis of democracy, as if some perfect, pristine system is suddenly breaking down. But this perspective forces us to ask a much more unsettling question. What if this isn't a breakdown at all? What if the internal contradictions that were always part of the system's design are just finally becoming visible to everyone? This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis and Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon. For a longer, audio-based analysis of this topic, see the deep dive linked in the description. If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.